What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to Bubbles BuzzerBeater, your official BuzzerBeater YouTube channel. I am here with another interview, and this is probably the biggest interview I've done on the YouTube channel because I have one of the biggest people involved with BuzzerBeater speaking with me today. So, BB Justin, how's it going?
It's going well. Nice to be here. Glad to have this opportunity to speak to you and for others to hear it.
Yeah, I'll say I know it's fun to always have different people on to talk about the game, but when I get to talk with someone who actually sort of decides things that happen in the game, it's always a little bit extra exciting. So I know you were asking me when I was seeing if you wanted to do an interview, and you're like, what type of interview? And I was like, don't worry, I'm not going to pester you for like all the secrets of BuzzerBeater. So I just wanted to kind of get your background on BuzzerBeater. I know you started in season 44, but was that your first season on the game, or did you have a prior account to season 44?
Yeah, so that wasn't my first season. I had an original account back in season 11 I started. So it was about a 20 season run that first time. And then I took a couple years off, and season 44, I jumped back in.
Gotcha. And I say, what made you interested in BuzzerBeater in the first place? Or have you always been like a bigger basketball fan, or is it just the game aspect of you're like, I want to fill some time with something? But what got you interested in BuzzerBeater?
Kind of a combination of both. Definitely a big basketball fan, but also have enjoyed games, in particular basketball games and management type games. So the combination of all that kind of piqued my interest, and then the rest is history, I guess.
Yeah. And then I know that so when you started back up in season 44 with your new team, you didn't become a BB until season 53. So I know a question that a lot of people have is, did you enjoy BuzzerBeater more when you were just kind of chilling and playing for those 9 seasons as like a casual manager, or do you enjoy it now that you're forced to be super invested now that you're a BB?
I've learned a lot since becoming a BB, so I definitely see it from a different perspective than before. So I still enjoy it now. I don't know if it was funner back then or not, but it's always been fun. It's BuzzerBeater. Come on.
Yeah. And then a question that I've always had was, how did you becoming a BB come about? Like, who asked you, or did you reach out, or who offered you kind of the position to be a BB in BuzzerBeater?
Initially, it started out, I reached out to them, actually. As we all know, that there were times in BB's history where things didn't go as well. There were server issues. We had issues with the match viewer going out of support. So back then, I decided I'm a developer for my normal career, my day job, and so I have the skills in order to do what I do now as a BB developer. So I reached out to them and kind of volunteered myself. I said, I have these skills. It looks like you could use some help. Is there anything I can do? So that was the kind of the initial beginning of it. That was about 6 months before I actually became a BB. And up to that, until I finally became a BB, I got more and more involved working with them, just doing small things. And it came down to the decision. I decided I wanted to build the app for them. And so, we kind of decided I would have a bigger role than I had previously had. And with that came the new title as a BB. So that's kind of the short story.
That's awesome. Yeah. I'll say it's always nice to have a little backstory. And then I know that the BuzzerBeater app is something that, most managers, if they've been on BuzzerBeater for a long time, have waited like years and years for. And then I know just recently everyone's been talking about how we touched 13,000 users, and USA's touched 1,000 users were both above those marks for the first time in a long time. Do you think that the BuzzerBeater app is the main reason we've kind of risen back up to that point, or just like the sheer amount of basketball, like NBA season just started recently, or do you think there's other reasons as to why you see this small kind of bump in users, or if the app is a big reason or not, if you had to guess?
I think the app plays a part in it, and it definitely helps the people who sign up to stay a lot longer or more often than they would in the past. We did recently, or I did, I guess, recently start some advertising campaigns that kind of has spurred this latest increase in users, and it has had a bigger impact on the USA users too. So it was a combination of things.
Gotcha. And is there like a goal in mind that you have for the user base? Like obviously like a general goal is just like, oh, we want to increase the user base back to like where it was before, where you're up to like 40,000 users. But do you have like a realistic like short-term goal that you had in mind for like user base growth in terms of like how many users you're trying to get to BuzzerBeater?
Yeah, I don't have an exact number for it. I don't see it going, to the 40K like it was at one point in time, but I do feel there's definitely some potential users that would join if they were aware of it and they knew it was an app, and if they could do everything within the app. So I think there's kind of an untapped group of people that could increase the users, maybe not quite double it, but 15K to 20K users. I think we could get there if we can continue to hold on to people who sign up and to get the people who would love to have it in the app form.
Gotcha. Yeah, and then speaking of the app, I know that the app's like a continuous process, and it's constantly getting new features added to it from the main site. But what are some of like the most recent updates, or also how's the experience of creating the app been? Because I know it's not a small feat. That's why it's taken forever to get the app up and going. But what are some of the recent updates, and what has your overall experience been with creating the app and kind of figuring out how that runs?
Yeah, so most recently we've kind of rounded out our staff features. You can see your team staff on there, and you can search for new staff members if you want to buy a new trainer or new doctor. And this includes some recent updates to our notifications, like player outbid notifications. If you bid on a player and someone else bids on it, you get notified, and bookmark notifications. So the whole player and staff transfer markets are now all in the app, and you can bid on them and receive notifications when the auctions are ending or if you've been outbid. So it really helps out when you're when you're searching for someone. Sometimes if you're not at the computer when the auction ends, you don't really have any options. So
Yeah, I'll say way better than the web browsing. I remember like years ago when I'd be at work or in school or something, and I'm like trying to like zoom in on the website on my phone. I'm like, I think I can see what I'm bidding on, and I'm like, is that a 7 or a 1? So the app fixes a lot of that nuanced problems for sure.
yeah, you definitely don't have to zoom in as much. So that's good.
Yeah, and then just overall experience, like how tedious of a task has it been, or I guess how many? Because you don't have a whole lot of people assisting you with the app. It's primarily just you who's creating the app, correct?
Yeah, I'm the only developer for the app, and so it has been a big learning experience, because whenever I have to build something new, I have to go back to the website and see and like learn how the website does everything, and then I have to take that and imagine what the app version would look like, and kind of translate that and rebuild it into app form. So I'm constantly looking at the old code and trying to figure out, what was going on when they created it and how it's supposed to work. So it's definitely a slow process, and it's a lot of stuff that I've learned throughout it, but it has been fun. It's been taking quite a bit longer than I ever thought it would, but we're at a good point now, I think, and we're really close to having most of the features needed for a new team to just start on the app and only use the app. So
Awesome. Yeah, I'll say more fun for you winning season 8 or season 58 USA Cup or building the app, because I know you just won the USA Cup for the first time.
More, I really like the app. I mean, but it's hard to take the cup away, though. That was something exciting, and there's a couple other teams out there that I was worried about, but I was able to get it. So
I'll say, and you and Mediocrity were playing first league game tonight, correct?
Oh, yes.
How did that go? I didn't even look to see who won. Did you pull off the win?
I did beat them. There was two injuries in the game, so it was our teams apparently don't like each other very much. But
I'll say that sounds vicious. Game 1 and people are already getting hurt.
None of the injuries lasted longer than the game, though. So
Gotcha. Cool. Well, kind of segueing off of that, because I know that we wanted to talk about some of the season 59 updates and what I consider like the smaller but still really useful updates. And one of them actually relates directly to injuries, which is the taping injuries, where, for a long time, if a player got hurt, it was very, very rare to see them back in the game when they're injured, because most people just don't have a doctor with the taping specialty. And then starting the season is going to be the first time where standard doctors actually have the capability to put a player back in the game. So can you tell me a little bit about what made you think about incorporating this into the game, or who kind of made this suggestion, and why this has been added as a feature for BuzzerBeater?
Yeah, so I mean, injuries have always been, I would say, a complaint that users would complain about. They happen too often, or they're too long. And this idea of taping injuries was always in the game for as long as I can remember, but it wouldn't happen. You would have to have the taping specialty, and then it was a small percent chance that it would even happen. And so I really loved the idea of it, and I felt like we could improve on that. We could increase the value of doctor levels, because some people say, are doctors worth, how much are they worth, are they worth the money? So all of that combined, I've been reviewing the different staff types and the different arena upgrades, just to find what their value is in the game, and out of that grew this idea, which I presented to the other members of the upper levels of BB staff, and they all liked it, and so we went forward with it.
Gotcha. Cool. I'll say I'm excited for it because, as you said, the managers on the game sometimes don't value doctors as much, and I know I'm a manager that historically hasn't valued doctors. I know I carry a minimum doctor or a basic doctor for the majority of my BuzzerBeater career, and this is the first season where I'm looking at potentially upgrading. So I guess you can view that as a small success, just if you're looking at a small sample size of just me. But no, it's a cool feature to get added. Some of the other small features that are getting updated in season 59, I know that this one has probably been not the biggest, but probably the second biggest update in terms of like conversation about it, but the merchandise breakdown. I know that this is another one that's been in the works for a while, and I always see you in the suggestion threads, like listening to people's opinions about merchandise and arena sponsorships. I know is the new thing that's been added. as well as being able to see the entire breakdown. But was this a pretty seamless addition to the game? Because it's not necessarily changing a whole lot, but more just like breaking down rather than just seeing this is what I make for merchandise, just breaking it down as to what goes to where. Was it a seamless transition, or were there some kinks that you had to work out before adding this into the game?
Yeah, it was pretty seamless. In fact, though, it didn't take very long to implement. We had planned to do it, and I think so. Last week, I sat down for a couple hours and put it in there. But because the merchandise breakdown was always happening, but we only saw just the one number, so it just kind of explains more of how merchandise works and gives people more ways to kind of learn about it and try to improve it without even revealing too much. I would say 95% of it is the same merchandise formula that's been there for years, and so now we can look at it from different perspectives, and it would be easier to improve on too, because we can see, oh, maybe this part of merchandise doesn't give you as much money as it should. So I really like the options that it provides for us.
Gotcha. Yeah. I'll say another cool introduction to season 59. And I know, merchandise was always something that I didn't pay much attention to. I just looked at the number, was like, okay, that seems fair, I guess. And then I continue about my day. So seeing the breakdown specifically by like individual player, I think is really cool, because I know a lot of times when people are thinking about purchasing players or cutting players, they don't consider like the merchandise impact of that player. So now seeing like, oh, this player brings in like $12,000 worth of merchandise. So not only if I trade him, am I losing the skill of that player, but my team economy is going to be changed a little bit too. So very, very cool to see that. And then the last, what I consider like smaller update or smaller change, was the league consolidation. That is still fairly recent, where the goal is essentially to make it so that every league has 12 plus human teams in it. So essentially there's like managers that can be moved from league to league in the same division if there are lower user numbers in those leagues. Can you talk a little bit about just that process and, specifically which teams are being moved and why this benefits like users in the long run to get more human managers in their league?
Yeah, so the goal was to have human teams in your league. It had been a long time where there would be some leagues with only a couple humans, and maybe not even all of them active. So that was the main goal, was to combine them. And also another benefit from it is we wanted new users who had created a new account to be separated into their own leagues, so they're not competing against teams that have been playing BuzzerBeater for 10 years. Or so this consolidation provided a way for us to separate the leagues, to move people around as necessary. For our experienced users who have been playing for a while, we tried to not move them, but the goal is at least get them in a league with 10 to 12 human teams, and if user numbers dip next season, maybe they have to slide to a different league just to keep them in a human league. But we're trying to avoid moving people around too much.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I know it's definitely a balance, because if you move a manager from league to league every single season, it's hard for him to kind of get a grasp of the other teams. But obviously, I know for me, one of the most boring parts when I restarted with the new account, as you know, when I shot back down to Division 4 USA, and I was in a league with 5 or 6 human managers, and as you said, not even all of them are that active if they're in Division 4. So just more activity in the leagues and league forums and stuff is probably good for user retention in the first couple of seasons that they're doing. So that's awesome. Moving on to the season 60 update. And the big one that I'm excited about, and the big one that has been talked about extensively over the last season, is the new World Cup structure. And I know that you, as well as Alonso, as well as Joe Maverick, and lots of other people have kind of had a say as to what this structure looks like. I know the repechage was something that a lot of people did not like, and you understandably was like, yeah, I don't I don't love it that much either. But can you tell me a little bit about what the process looked like for creating the new World Cup structure, and who all kind of had a say as to what that looked like?
Yeah, so it started probably about a season ago or more. We've had lots of conversations in the forums about this, and there were lots of ideas, lots of good ideas. Bigger ideas, bigger changes than what we ended up with. But I'd say the main discussion was between myself and Alonso and Joe Maverick, and we kind of pulled out all the ideas from the forums and put them all in a list and looked at them. And even then, probably the best way we wanted to make the changes for it isn't what we ended up with. We wanted to get rid of the 3 qualifying games at the beginning of the World Cup and just kind of have a single qualifying game and get into the Cup with more teams. And so the way we're going now is is a smaller change than what we initially thought, but it's definitely something that can be adjusted in the future.
Yeah, so I know specifically our European users are super excited about this new structure because it is they have more opportunities now to not just completely get shafted by the by the system, where they have more teams that are automatically qualified and more teams that are able to qualify for Worlds, because Europe is kind of like the mecca for national team and U21 team talent, it seems. That's why, Antoine and I always laugh, because it's like, regardless of the new structure, I feel like for the USA, since our U21 national team, at least from a U21 perspective, is usually pretty solid compared to a lot of other teams, it doesn't impact us as much as it does Europe. So I know that they are very, very excited for that. So just for everyone listening, to do a little bit of a breakdown as to what the structure looks like that we're talking about, and I'll have this on the screen as well. But it's essentially a 16-team structure now, where 2 Asia teams, 2 America teams, 4 Europe teams, and 2 Africa teams are auto qualifiers. So that's 10 teams of the 16. And then, as Justin mentioned, the qualifier matches are now just a 1-game competition to see who makes the Worlds, where the semifinalist teams for Asia and Americas face off with other European and Asia America teams, and then the number 3 Europe team that doesn't make the semifinals faces off with the number 3 Asia team, and then the other number 3 Europe team that doesn't make semifinals in the conference faces off with the number 3 Americas team. So it'll make more sense when it's up on the screen, because obviously it's a more complex structure now, but I think it's definitely better. And then for our managers and national teams who either don't make Worlds often or are looking at consolation, how that works now, I know that the consolation structure has changed as well in terms of how draws will work. So can you talk a little bit about how consolation draws work now?
So this next season, or season 60, when we switch to this new consolation format, we'll have it so each team we'll kind of group each team according to their ranking and make sure that they play a couple teams in each group, and then for their 8 qualifying games. That way they'll have their games spread out by home and away games, and then across 4 different ranking groups, just to create some balance. So, I mean, there'll still be some randomness in there, but at least less randomness than has happened in the past.
Yeah, so it's a lot more similar to, I know the World Cup is coming up here in end of November, where the World Cup for soccer or football, depending on where you are in the world, It's a lot more similar to this, and I just think it, as you said, it eliminates a lot of the randomness and make sure that teams aren't giving as unfair of a draw or as favorable of a draw. So definitely another good addition. So those are kind of the main things that I wanted to talk with you about. And I know people love to hear your perspective on and kind of get the behind the scenes as to how stuff was implemented. And I know that this is a funny kind of question after I've just spent all this time, almost a half hour asking you questions, but do you get tired of the constant questions on how things work? Because I know on Discord, especially, if you're not on Discord, please join the Discord. But on Discord, BB Justin just gets like annihilated with questions every day. Do you ever get exhausted or tired of all the questions?
I wouldn't say that I get tired of them. I enjoy, especially if it's a new question. I enjoy or trying to figure it out. I mean, most of the time the answer is I don't know, or I'm not going to tell you. But
Yeah.
But yeah, usually the questions, are the reason I learn things. Going back to the merchandise breakdown we talked about, it also, I broke down merchandise like a couple seasons ago because someone said there's a bug with merchandise. Justin, tell me why did my merchandise drop? And I'm like, I don't know. So yeah. So I enjoy that. There's some questions I don't like. I get questions like, why did I lose this game? Or, why is my team not performing well? And so I'm probably not the best person to ask those questions to. I mean, I know a lot, but there's a lot better managers that have much more experience with building a more successful team than me. But so I get some random messages like that I don't really know what to tell them. But so
I was gonna say, do you have like a most random or weirdest question that you've been asked where you're just like, I have no idea, where someone just asks you something where you're like, I did not even imagine this to be a question I'm getting asked?
I mean, I've had people ask me if their account is being hacked because they got like injuries 3 games in a row, or but yeah, I mean, that one was kind of odd. And then I said, no, you're fine. But they did not believe me. So I don't know.
Gotcha. Cool. And then just the last thing before we get out here, I know, you're in Arizona time, so you're not as late as I am, but we wanted to wrap this up in about a half hour. So just from a non-BB perspective, so not just BB Justin, but Justin, the manager with your own BuzzerBeater team, what is your favorite part about BuzzerBeater, and why do you stick around? Why are you so involved in it? What draws you to BuzzerBeater?
I definitely like training, building your own trainees up until they're solid contributors and building your team around them. And I really like the tactics part of the game when you are preparing for your match and scouting your opponent. So I'd say those two are my favorite parts of the game. The money portion of the game, I'm actually not very good with my money in BuzzerBeater. I'm always broke. So.
Me neither. No worries.
But yeah, I'd say those two are my favorite.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, hey, I really appreciate you coming on. I know a lot of people are going to be incredibly excited to hear from you and kind of put a voice to the text that they always see on the website and Discord. So thanks for joining us. And we'll have to see if we can get you on in the future. Maybe like I don't want to overwhelm you, but maybe just like a once a season thing when updates roll around, get you back on and talk. But I really appreciate it. So thanks for coming on, Justin, and thanks everyone for listening.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Let's do it again. And I definitely want to thank all those out there who work with me and help me. That you know who you are. Who do graphics for me or videos like we have here. So thank you for all your support.
All right. You have a good rest of your night. Okay, Justin?
All right. You too.